Let's give it a shot. If you were here within 1 second of me going live, you would have heard this greeting. That would be pretty interesting. All right. Woo! I think we're actually live. And we're going to do some Notion building here on this stream. I didn't give anybody any warning. I didn't tweet it. I didn't put it on Facebook. I didn't even mail out paper pieces of mail to people's mailboxes. So if you found this stream, then hey, how's it going? Hey, my first comment is from someone named Thomas. What's going on? Boy, people click the notification like right away. Yeah. So for anyone here, we're going to do a little casual stream. We're actually going to be building something from scratch that I have not planned out yet, but I want to build a brand new Notion recipe tracker that is going to be vastly improved over the current one. So welcome, welcome. This is a bit of a work session. You're going to get to see some stuff happening in real time, and I'm just going to maybe pull the chat up. I think the chat window I popped out was from the previous stream that I didn't make work. So yeah, welcome. Welcome in, y'all. I wonder if I can. I'm gonna learn as I go. We're all gonna learn as we go here. I can pop that up and make chat look a little bit better. Sweet. Welcome, Thomas. Welcome, Vladimir. Welcome, Jonathan. Welcome, Emma and Simon. How y'all doing? Where y'all tuning in from? Definitely not me drinking coffee at 5 p.m. All right, I'm not going to spend too long doing preamble stuff because, again, this stream was not planned. But what I want to do today, wow, that is big on my other monitor. What I want to do today is build a brand new recipe book for Ultimate Brain. And I think what I want to do is create something that I can also turn into a standalone recipe template. So let's see here. My stream's current bitrate is a little bit low, I think. I can't quite tell me what it's warning me about. Let's see here. Lower than the recommended bitrate. I wonder if I can fix that. I bet you I can. I'll tell you, I had to do a whole bunch of random changes to my streaming setup to get it to work. So hopefully it doesn't break on y'all today. See how it works. Hopefully, hopefully, hopefully. There we go. Okay. So yes, like I was saying, we are going to build a brand new recipe tracker in this little stream here. So in my Ultimate Brain template, we had this recipe book that I think worked pretty well, but there was a problem with it. If I open up one of these recipes, we can see that there are a lot of properties inside this recipe book, and they just don't really pertain to recipes. And I would like to fix that. So I think what we want to do is create a recipe book that is disconnected from this central notes database. So that way we don't have all these more generic note type properties in here, like area resource, content, all that kind of thing. So I've been building a little list, a little shopping list, if you will, of elements that I want to put in the recipe tracker. And we're just going to build this live. So I know 100% we want a recipes database. And if we can, I also want to see if it is possible to implement like a meal planner of sorts. We might end up running into some issues. I'm not sure yet, but we're going to try it out. So I think the first thing I want to do is grab these blocks and I'm going to move them over to this little note that I created here. I think that's going to be a little bit easier to manage. And then the first thing we're going to do is just create ourselves a nice little database for recipes. And I'll put it here for now. I'm probably going to move it a little bit later on, but I'm just going to call this recipes, new table. And let's pop into the database itself and set it up the way I want it. Databases in Notion, I always make red. I like to make views green, and I like to make pages blue. I have this little color coding situation going on. So within here, my recipes database is going to have a red icon. We can do fork, we can do plate. Have all kinds of food options here. There's so many things to pick from. I think I'm just going to go with a fork and a plate for now. That'll be pretty good to start with. And then I want to think about the different properties that we want to have inside of a recipe tracker. So let's think about this from a database property standpoint. What would be useful to have in a recipes database that would make it comprehensive, but also that would make it easy to use? Because one thing I want to avoid doing is over-engineering this to the point where I don't use it in the future. So I want to make it easy to plan meals. I want to make it easy to make grocery lists if possible. Again, this is going to be an architectural challenge, I think. But this right here, I think, is going to be the crux of the recipe tracker, the meal properties here. So meal time, I think, is going to be a great tag type to add on there. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert, that kind of thing. Second breakfast, 11Cs. We're going to have tags. So if I want to make quick meals, I'd like to be able to pop into my little quick tag, healthy, meal prep, all that kind of stuff. We could also do things like one pan, one pot, slow cooker. I don't know if that should be broken off into an equipment tag or if it should be just a more categorical tag. Maybe we could also do, in fact, let me note this down, equipment. I'm going to put that little question mark there because I'm not entirely sure that I want to have an equipment tag or database. Again, I don't want to over-engineer things too much, but I am going to note that down there. And then I think ingredients could be useful as well. So I think that like this list right here is going to give us a decent list of either select or multi-select properties we can use for tagging purposes. And then I also want to experiment a little bit with cooking times. No, go out of here, yeah. Cooking times and also servings, because most online recipes that you pull, like say this fried rice recipe, they're going to have different times here, like prep time, cook time, total time, and they're going to have yield as well. So I think I want to be able to capture that within our database. And ultimately, the goal would be at some point for us to use our Notion web clipper Flylighter to be able to very easily just capture all this stuff. So for example, if I went here and just grabbed all this good stuff like that, popped it into there, I want to be able to capture that stuff. That'll be step one or level one. And then I think level two, I want to be able to grab specific pieces of information from recipes in an automated fashion, like prep time, cook time, total time, and bring those into Notion properties. So we are going to get ourselves set up for that. I think I'm gonna leave this as name. I also wish that this would go away. Like, I wish I had a way to turn that off. It's very annoying. But let's think about the other properties we need. And I'm gonna start from what we already had in the previous version of Ultimate Brain. So we had recipe tags, and I think they're all down here, which was breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert, quick and healthy. And I think that might have actually been all that came with the original version of Ultimate Brain recipe-wise. We just had these different views and they're filtered by tags. So that's kind of it. In here, we have quite a bit more. So I think I'm going to make a select property or maybe a multi-select property. Yeah, I think multi-select is going to be better. And I'm going to call that mealtime. And we're going to give those options: breakfast, lunch, dinner, and I think dessert also belongs there, even though it's not really a time. I think it does belong there. And then snack would also work too. And feel free to pop suggestions in the chat, because this is eventually going to become a template, and I will turn it into a tutorial once we've got it sort of in a better spot and I know how to build it from memory. So if you are trying to do meal planning yourself in Notion, let me know what you would put into it, and maybe it'll make it into this little build session here. So I've got mealtime here. We're going to make that a multi-select because you might have something that could be breakfast that could also be lunch. I think we want to make those flexible, different selects there. And then what do we have as well? We had tags. We had ingredients, we had styles. So let's go ahead and add those. I think I'm going to do a multi-select for tags as well. And for now, I think I'm going to keep these as multi-selects instead of breaking out relations just yet. So let's see here. Does the other one need to be select or no? Ingredients and styles. Style could probably be a select. Style is usually going to, well, no, because you could have fusion. So instead of select, that'll also be multi-select. Style. I don't know if you call it style or cuisine. So we'll see. We'll go with style for now. One cool thing that I've been doing, and I'm not sure if I'll do these immediately, but one cool thing I've been doing with all the rest of this template that I've been building is adding these descriptions here, which ends up being really useful for newer viewers or newer people who are newer to Notion, because they can just hover over these little views here and they can basically see everything they need to see, which I think is pretty handy. So we're going to be adding those a little later on once we have a handle on the structure of everything. We've got tags there. We have style here. So let's just add a few. We do a lot of Asian cooking. We do a lot of Mexican. We could do New American. We could do, I guess, BBQ would be style. And that should probably be all capitals right there. And then tags, I want to do quick. I want to do healthy. I think one pan would be a great tag. I think slow cooker could be a tag. What else do we have in the list here? Holiday, salad, big groups. I think that's all going to be good. Maybe let's call that group. Total creative work right now. Okay, so there is a decent smattering of tags here. And then I want to do the serving time and the servings. So I want to look at this recipe here, because one thing I notice is the prep time could be hours, could also be minutes. So we're going to have some sort of unit that we're going to work in. And then when I'm capturing things to my recipe book in the future, I'm going to have to translate if the units are different. This might only matter for time, because we could have minutes, we could have seconds, we could have hours. And I think minutes makes the most sense as our sort of home unit. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a time number property over here. In fact, it's actually suggesting it for me, but I think I just want to call it time. Actually, no, I don't want to call it time, because I have an idea here. What if we did prep time? Again, these online recipes often have multiple time breakdowns. So prep, cook, total. Total could be a formula property that just adds these two together. So let's try that real quick. So prep time, let's say that this recipe, we'll call this, I don't know, ham cereal. This recipe's got 15 minutes of prep time. I don't know why it's 15 minutes of prep time for ham cereal, but it is. I'm gonna go ahead and freeze this column here so I can make it smaller. And we're gonna have cook time. And I want to call it cook time just to keep my property names nice and short. And we'll say the cook time for ham cereal is for some reason 30 minutes. That way we could do a formula, which is going to be total time. And then that total time formula could be just cook time plus prep time. 45. Cool. Now we could format this to say minutes. And that could be useful, but I think it's going to be better to format as a number, because as a numeric type here, we can do calculations. For example, we can do counting, we can do sums and things like that. But we also may want to add filter and sorting criteria to our eventual recipe book that will allow us to, say, only see recipes that would take 30 minutes or less, something like that. So I'm going to keep that like that. And that might be a decent starting point property-wise. I want to look one more time through our properties here. We had ingredients. We might want to add those later. Thinking through ingredients. Ingredients is something that could get really big really fast. And when you're designing something that is sort of like a database, something that can get a lot of potential entries instead of being very limited, like say 1 to 5 stars, that would be 5 total choices. You're never going to have anything else. Something like this, where it's ingredients, that might end up being a different database. But I'm going to come back to it, because it might end up making the recipe book feel tough to use. And I don't think I would use it, at least not with the way that Notion is set up. So the other thing that I want to sort of address here is this idea of a recipe inbox. So something that I want for my recipe book eventually is for it to be really nice and curated like this. But when I'm on the web, I'm often finding recipes and just clipping them really quickly. Maybe I clip a recipe that doesn't even have a nice card like this. I could just end up with a lot of really messy recipe clips, and I want to give myself a sort of staging area so I have the ability to go through, clean them up, get nice pictures, and keep the ones that haven't yet been cleaned up out of this nice little book. So I want to build some sort of concept of a recipe inbox, and it really could just be a checkbox to start off with. And if it's checked, it would be in the inbox, kept out of every other area of the recipe book. And if not checked, it comes out of the inbox and it goes into the book itself. So just for starters, I'm going to make a checkbox property. I'm going to call this inbox. We can even give it a nice little icon. There's a tray icon that I like to use. And yeah, we'll say whenever this is checked, it's going to be in a special inbox section. Otherwise, it's going to be somewhere else. Okay, let's get some initial content for ham cereal. I know this is fried rice and not ham cereal, but I'm just going to go ahead and copy it anyway. So we'll go ahead and grab this. I'm going to add it as the page body. And I think we are also going to create a database template where we could have sections for ingredients and for instructions. But I do want to design this in a way that is really easy to use with web clippers, specifically with Flylighter, because it's going to be really, really powerful for clipping specific pieces of web pages. And one problem with the Notion API right now is that it cannot apply a database template to a new page that you're creating. So I'm not going to rely on database templates too much with this particular build we're doing here. Okay, and it looks like this pasted twice for some reason. Not sure why. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of that. And those will be on our instructions. Those will be our ingredients up here. And there's a description, cool. Okay, and then prep time, cook time, 45, and let's see here, what do they actually have in there? 5 and 10, 15. Let's go ahead and actually use what they put on there. Is it really a 5-minute prep for fried rice and 10-minute cook? I feel like these recipe blogs are often very optimistic with the amount of time these recipes take. But hey, maybe someone out there is that fast. I don't know. Okay, we'll do fried rice instead of ham cereal. Perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this in the inbox, and we'll go ahead and build ourselves an inbox. I'm going to put the database itself inside a toggle to sort of hide it for a second. And actually, you know what? Before I do that, I've been thinking about this new way of building things where I can just create views on the database itself. That way, I'll be able to copy them onto linked views later on. So let's try that. I'm going to do let's say a list view for the inbox. Go ahead and call this bad boy recipe inbox. And this is going to be where I clip random recipes that aren't yet organized. We could show all these properties, but for now, I'm not sure which ones I want to show. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that as is. Let's keep the load limit to 10. That way it's going to not take up a ton of space. It might end up being at the top of our recipe book. Maybe, not sure yet. And we're going to add a filter. I like using advanced filters. You can, of course, use simple filters, and they probably are faster, but for whatever reason, I like having this one filter box here. So this is going to be where inbox is checked. Perfect. That just gives us fried rice. And that's going to give us a nice little staging area. So on every other view, what I think I'll do is add the opposite filter. I'll have inbox not checked, and that's going to keep all of these messy recipes out of those views. I think I also want to create an edited date so I can sort by it. Call that edited. We could also do created as well. Might as well. Fun fact, created and edited are on every page by default. Creating these properties just gives you access to them in filters and sorts, and you can see them here. But every page already has a created and edited date. So you're not really adding that property. You're more just surfacing it for yourself. So now we have that property. We can go ahead and sort by created time and descending order. Our newest recipes will be at the top. Awesome. I wonder, let's see here. Recipe inbox is going to be that first thing. I wonder if we want to add another view just to sort of see what will happen if we get this out of the inbox. Ooh, and I want to show the inbox property actually. So let's go ahead and show that as our last property, maybe even there. Yeah, and we can go ahead and get the icon out of the way. So now if we create, let's just say a gallery view, I'm going to call this one all recipes. Give it a nice little fork and plate icon. I'm going to limit it to 25, I think will work for a gallery. And we're going to set the card preview to cover so we can actually upload our own images if we want to. I like to open inside Peak, and I think we can also wrap our properties. Let's go ahead and add another filter. This filter is going to be where inbox is unchecked. Cool. So all we have right now are these blank pages. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of those. Hide our database title just like that. And now let's say we have fully processed our fried rice. We're like, hey, the meal time for this, not really breakfast, but lunch, dinner totally works. I think that's a good meal time. It is, of course, Asian. And I would say it's quick. It's fairly healthy. Is it a one pan? Yes, it's a one. It's a one pan if you had rice already made. And we do so often have rice already made, I'm actually going to consider it a one pan. It's not a slow cooker. It's not really a holiday meal. It's not a salad. And it could be for groups, but for us, I don't think it would be. So those are good tags. Total time is there. Cool, cool. Let's go ahead and uninbox it. So now it goes into my recipes. I should probably give it a photo. We'll use Unsplash real quick. And if I was really fancy, maybe I would take my own photos of my own cooking. But for now, I think that's good. Let's also give it an icon. Maybe we'll end up creating a database template that just applies the icon, but I think that works for now. Okay. So the reason that I want to build a system like this instead of having it built into the note-taking system like it currently is in the Ultimate Brain template is my wife does not like the fact that our recipe book is part of this gigantic note-taking system. Works well if it was just me, but when it is a thing that is shared with family members, it gets to be a little bit tougher to use in this fully integrated system. So I kind of want to create this fully separate system, and that also gives us the benefit of being able to share this page and nothing else in the system with other people. So if I wanted to say, make this public on the internet and share all of my personal recipes, I could do that and I wouldn't have to share the rest of my notes database in doing that. So that's kind of the reason we're doing that. I'm gonna take a quick break because there's a couple of questions in chat, or at least one. Where's Martin? Martin is in Minneapolis. And I guess I haven't updated the world in quite a while. I have moved to Iowa, where I went to school, where a lot of my family is. So Martin is just about 3 hours up the road from me, and he's doing whole lot of managing and sort of COO stuff for the business these days. Perhaps we'll have more content on the channel in the future. But yeah, he's a bit more behind the scenes, still working with me. And I'm here building Notion stuff on the internet. All right, so we have all recipes. And I think we can basically just recreate what we had before. I think I'll do it here for now. So let's go ahead and duplicate this and make one called breakfast. Now, do they have an egg? They do have an egg one. Ooh, they have a frying pan egg and they have a regular egg. I think I'm gonna do frying pan egg for breakfast. This is gonna be the exact same as all recipes, except we are going to add another filter where our, I think it was mealtime, is breakfast. So we can create a whole suite of mealtime views here, which I think will be really useful for meal planning. I want to think before we start duplicating too much, do we want to add sort criteria to this or not? I think we do, and I think name is probably going to be ideal. And that gives me another idea while we're thinking about this. If I eventually have a lot of recipes, like say hundreds, I might not want to scroll through all of these. I might want to have favorites as well. So does that mean we should have a property for favorites, or should favorites just be a tag property as well? I think I'm going to go for a tag property for now. So I'm just going to call this favorite. And we'll use that when we want to mark a recipe as one of our favorites. And then we can create a really easily accessible favorites view. That way, thinking about how I actually plan meals when I'm sitting down during the week to plan our dinners or whatever. I want to have the most commonly made things that we make for dinners and lunches and so on instantly accessible. So I'm going to go ahead and go with that. And maybe we'll make it a checkbox property later on, but why add another property when you don't need to? So for now, we're going to go ahead and sort that by name. We're going to have this be all recipes that are not in our inbox. The breakfast one, let's add that name sort as well. This is now nicely sorted by mealtime. Of course, we could also do a mealtime view, and maybe we will a little bit later, but I guess I could just do it as a proof of concept. So let's call this one mealtime, because we can use the grouping as well, and that might be more useful and easier to use for some people. Let's do a clock for mealtime, and we're going to group that by the mealtime select property. Okay, hiding empty groups. I think that probably makes sense. Let's go ahead and unhide them real quick. This is a nice little trick. If you unhide in the grouping area, you can actually see what sort of order you will have when these groups down here are no longer empty. So to me, it makes more sense to bring breakfast and lunch above dinner, have this be the order, and then we can, of course, hide the empty groups once again, and now we have lunch and we have dinner. And that's a nice little mealtime view. So if you wanted to, you could have a single database view that's only showing your breakfast items, or you could have a view like this where you can easily just close the toggles that you don't want and look at lunch. My thought is maybe this is a view for like a dashboard style page where you just instantly come to recipes and you can just sort of click through things. And then maybe we create a dedicated mealtime page that has these actual tabs on them, because then you can sort of break into things a little bit more cleanly and you have less to see on the page. So we'll try that out for now. We have all recipes. We have mealtime that is sorted off just awesomely. Breakfast is going to be, I think, fine for now. We can sort of duplicate that later on if we want to do lunch, dinner, etc. I'm not going to do it right now. So let's go back into our recipe and think about what other views we might need. We could do style views. And I think this is an instance, but I need to think about the architecture here. Would style make more sense as a separate database, or would style make sense as a multi-select property right here? My head is starting to go a little bit in the direction of additional database, and I'd love to get some feedback in the chat if you have any, but for now, I will get the discussion going by popping into the new version of Ultimate Brain that we're building. So I think you are actually the first people to see this. Ultimate Brain 3.0 is coming out next month. And there's a lot of new features within this, but one cool thing we've added is a brand new book tracker, which is also a totally separate set of databases, and that allows for a lot more book-specific properties. So I'm kind of thinking along the lines of, we have books here, and we are using status property for book status, like to read, read, things like that. But for genres, we actually have a separate genres database. And what that allows us to do is pop into a genre like this, and we can very easily add any books we want to this genre. And if we want to add another genre, we just need to add the page to the database. We don't need to create additional views. We don't need to create additional filters. So I think it might make sense to do something like a recipe tags database. And it might even make sense to combine style and this generic tags property into that database. Yeah, I think that might actually make sense. Another bit of prior art here that we can look at is this new tags database. So we have different types of tags, like areas and resources from Tiago Forte's para methodology. I've also come up with a third type of tag, which I'm calling entity. And that's basically just like a way of describing objects in a very generic way. So instead of like a topical resource, it would be something like essays or funny things that I'm saving or apps that I'm saving. And that way you could have topic-based resources, but also object-typed entities. And I think I'm going to go with something like that for our recipe tags database. So let's try that out. Of course, we can get rid of it if we don't like it. But for now, I think it's actually a decent idea. One more database. Let's go with a list view for now, I think. I guess it's going to be a table to start with, but of course we can change that layout. You know what though? I think table is actually a good way to start because we get access to all the properties here. So we're going to call this recipe tags. We need to find ourselves a good icon for recipe tags. I don't know if I want to use tag because I already have a tags database, but maybe. Let's see if there's anything else we can use. Anything under food? We could use a fridge. A fridge could work. A fridge could work. All right, I think that's more fun for now. We're going to go with a fridge. We can always change it. Okay, so recipe tags. Tags might want to have a forced type, in which case I might want to use a status property. So let's go ahead and get rid of the tags on the recipe tags. Let's create a status property. And the only reason I'm using status is because status can have a default, and that means brand new pages can actually be forced to have a value instead of being blank. I'm going to call this type, and we're going to move everything into the in progress group just so there's no concept of to do in progress and complete. Again, I'm not using this to indicate like a status that we're going through a process. I'm just using it to force every value to have, or every row to have a value. So this we're going to call style. And does anybody else have that thing where you get a word in your head and it's a specific color? I feel like there's a word for that, but I do get that where I'll say like a word in my head or think of a concept and there's a color for that concept. I'm not sure what that is or if there's a term for it, but for whatever reason, style feels like an orange word to me. And then we might just have a generic tag type. And I want to go back to our recipe that we sort of brought out here just to see if there's anything else. Boy, there could even be a mealtime tag. I'm going to leave mealtime as a select for now because it's one of those things where you wouldn't add more than just a few. I think in database design, these are often called enumerated values or enums, where if you would have something that is going to have a very constrained set of values, that would be an enum, and you would just sort of put it on a table you're designing. Whereas if it's a set of values that could very easily balloon, you would make a different table instead, because then you can just relate those two tables together, and adding new values is very easy. You just put it on the second table. So we're going to keep mealtime as a multi-select. We're going to turn these into this tags database we're going to create here. So let's go ahead and create some of those. We had our styles, Asian, Mexican, New American, barbecue. Let's go ahead and create those. And those are all styles. And then we had quick, healthy, one pan. Boy, I'm not going to be able to load all these into my brain. Quick, healthy, one pan, slow cooker, holiday. Eeh. I know we had group. And we had salad, which that might be a generic tag. And something like salad feels like it should be refined into something that's not just a generic tag value in the future. But for now, we can do that. And there's a cool little trick if you haven't seen it before. You can select a value, and then you can grab this little white circle and do that. Of course, you can go back if you want to. So now we can create a relation. Let's go ahead and let me think here. Does this need to be a bidirectional relation, or does this need to be just one directional? I would apply a tag from a recipe. Would I apply a recipe to a tag? You might want to, but to keep things clean, I'm going to make the relation over here, and I'm going to make it one directional for now. So relation to recipe tags. Let's call this tag. And we're not going to show it on recipe tags. And that's going to create that one directional relation. So basically all that's really going to mean is we'll see tag here, but we're not going to see a reciprocal property here on recipe tags. And I think that's totally fine, because all we really want to get out of this is the ability to set these tags here and then to see our recipes within these tag pages. So I'm going to go ahead and add a couple on our tag property, which I think I'll move here for now. So fried rice is going to be Asian, And it's going to be quick, healthy, and one pan. None of the others really seem to apply right now. So now what we can do is create ourselves a database template inside of this database here. And this is one of my favorite building tricks here. So I'm going to call this tag template. Our type can start off as style, or maybe we call this a style template. And I think the word template is actually redundant, so we're just going to call this style. Within here, let's create ourselves a list view. This list view is going to be of the recipes database. I think I'm going to do, just a new list view. Actually, you know what? No, this is a recipe book. We're going to have a gallery view. We can add list later, but recipe is all about looking at the food that you want to cook, right? So let's do that instead. Page cover. Let's make it small for now. We're going to wrap the properties. We're going to add this in side peek, and I'll show you a little bit why later. And we'll call that done. Laura said synesthesia is the word. Synesthesia? Or is it synesthesia? Interesting. I think there's a program called synesthesia that will allow you to learn piano in sort of like a Guitar Hero way. So that's kind of cool. So I was going to Comic-Con next week in Vegas. That's cool. I was just in LA while they were doing Comic-Con. I was not in the Comic-Con, but I was staying right across the street from the Comic-Con. So lots of cosplayers were milling about. And Dave Wiskus and I hit a bunch of Nebula gift cards for a year's worth of Nebula in the bushes around there. So they might still be there. I'm not sure. Okay, so load limit, I think I'm going to keep at, let's do 25. That seems pretty good. Properties, we know we're getting rid of style. We know we're getting rid of tags, but I do think I want to show mealtime. And I might do a formatted cook time or prep time thing a little bit later, but I don't want to show just a plain old number. So I'm not going to show cook time. I'm not going to show prep time. I think just mealtime will be good for now. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this database title. So here's something cool that we can do. If we go into the filter of this linked database view that we've created inside of this template, we can add a filter where the tag contains this template, which we've called style. And this is my favorite building trick in Notion, because watch what happens once we apply this template to an actual page in the database. So we'll open up this Asian page, apply our template, and we're going to see fried rice right there. And the reason is that our filter has been automatically updated to this page. So this is a concept that I don't think has an actual name inside of Notion. I want to say it was called self-referential filters by one of their engineers many years ago. So that's what I call it. But it's essentially a filter that references a template that contains the database that we've sort of created here, or at least the linked view. And when we apply that template to a new page, the filter updates to reference its new parent. And it's such a cool building trick. I would love to see Notion expand on this and allow us to target, say, properties of the parent page. So, I mean, imagine if you could do like a task list inside of a journal template, and you could have a filter that said, hey, only show me tasks that were done on the day of the journal template. So you'd go and you'd grab like the date property on the journal template. That would be super cool. Would love to see Notion do that at some point in the future. But for now, what we can do is at least filter against the page object itself. So now we have this recipe tags database that works pretty well, and we have this filter, or this database template that we can apply. I'm going to go ahead and make it a default. Yeah, we'll make it a default, at least in a styles tab. So I'm gonna just sort of denote this our styles view. And I don't know if there's a better icon for style within a food context, but we're gonna go with face sunglasses for now because that's pretty stylish. And within this view, we can make our style template the default. We'll go only on styles view. Now, unfortunately, it's not going to be applied to these pages we've already created. So we do need to come in here and apply this right here, but we can easily use this next page icon to jump between these pages as they're open. And we don't have a lot of recipes yet to work with, but I think this is going to make the recipe tracker really, really nice to use if we have this styles database, I can very easily, if I'm sitting down to do meal planning, go through all my different styles and start looking at the recipes we have, thinking about the ingredients I might have on hand, and just get a whole bunch of inspiration for what I might want to make that week, which I think is going to be pretty nice. And I can also do it with the more generic tags we have here. Let's say it's a really busy week. I'm just going to pop into my quick page and I'm going to do the exact same thing. And I think for now, we can just go ahead and apply style as the template for all of these, because one nice thing is when you already have a value set on, say, this type property, even though there is a value in the template, it's not going to overwrite this value that already exists. And there might be some detail around that I'm not thinking of right now, but I think that should work pretty well. So let's go ahead and add all of these. I might end up tweaking them a little bit later on with sorting criteria and things like that, but for now, they work pretty well. I'm going to go ahead and apply them all. Sweet. Okay. So I'm going to take a quick chat break real quick. One person is asking best antivirus. The best antivirus is to use a Mac computer. At this point, I use a Windows computer only for gaming. Beyond that, though, I think Windows is supposed to have pretty good antivirus built in, so I don't really think you need to worry too much about getting antivirus. You could always throw Malwarebytes on there as well. That's what I used to use back in the day, but I don't think I'm the right person to ask anymore because I really do most of my work on a Mac computer. Let's see here. From Bruno, you're in the middle of your studies right now and you got the notification. Well, Bruno, thank you so much for popping in. I'm really glad that you've appreciated the content in the past, but don't let me block your study time. If you got something to study for, make sure you're focused on that. This will eventually turn into a proper video. I don't know if this will become a video like this very stream, but I'll be doing a full tutorial on building this recipe tracker from scratch, especially once I know what it's supposed to look like. This is just me kind of figuring things out. So let's pop back into our little creative dance here with our tags database and our recipes database. Now that we have tags, I think what we can do is go ahead and get rid of these tag properties, this tag property here and the style property. We don't really need those because now we have tag. And something cool we could do is instead of showing the tags here, we could actually show them as, where's the tags property? We could actually show them as a page section. So we could do a page section like that. I don't know if I like this because this is going to make me scroll a lot more to get to the actual recipe. So what I think I'm going to do instead is set it as a minimal section. But before I do that, I do want to go in here and actually customize the properties to show that type. That's actually pretty useful. And then I can show it as a minimal section. And I think I want to rename that as tags. But now I can very easily open this up and see all the tags that have been applied to this recipe and apply more if I want to. So let's go ahead and rename this property to tags because this can be plural. That's a little bit better. Get rid of these blank blocks right here. And we have a pretty good looking recipe. So I think now we can start to polish the actual views we have. And again, mealtime is going to be perfect. We could have these individual tabs for meal times as well. But now what this has spared us from having to do is go and manually create tons and tons and tons of database views for all these different styles and generic tags. Of course, if we wanted to create a style, or if we wanted to create a view for something on our dashboard, we could do that. But we have now this database that we can easily cycle through. So let's go ahead and filter this to only show our styles, just like that. I'm gonna go ahead and hide that database tile right there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and sort by name. That's gonna be pretty good there. I'm also gonna change the layout type to list. I don't even know if we need to show the page icon there. Yeah, I don't really think we do. So I'm gonna go ahead and not show the page icon. And in the properties, let's see here. Well, we are making a style specific view. So we don't really need to show the type because we already know it's style. So that's all good there. Yeah, let's go ahead and duplicate this and make a tag view. Call this tags. We'll find a little tag icon there. Change the filter from where type is style to type is tag. Save that for everyone. So now we have access to all of our tags. They are also sorted in alphabetical order. Perfect. And let's see here. I think the next thing I want to do is show the number of recipes that are in each of these specific tags. So right now we have one. I want to get at least one more. So let's go ahead and make one more recipe. This one's going to be Tom's Famous French Toast. And I can make really, really good French toast, for the record. This is going to be a breakfast item. The cook time, thinking about it for a second, really is just about 10 minutes. It's not very long. Prep time, I would say also is maybe 10 minutes. You just get bread, you whip up the battery. Yeah, the French toast is really, really quick. The bacon can take a bit longer if you want to do like a side of bacon or eggs or something like that. But yeah, I think 20 minutes is a pretty good estimate for French toast here. I think I could even grab my ingredients and recipe from this version of the template. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. I don't want to grab the inbox view because I don't want to start mixing my templates together, but this will work just fine. Enter down there. Cool, cool, cool. This is my recipe, by the way. If anyone wants to try it, you can take a screenshot. It's really, really good. Make sure you get the challah bread. And, okay, so now we have two. Let's get ourselves a nice little cover image of French toast. That one looks decent. I don't like putting all the stuff on my French toast like this, but I do see some nice crusting on the edges, which means they did put the sugar in the pan before they finished cooking it. So that's good technique right there. And we'll add an icon. Why the heck not? Back to the blue. Okay, so this, I want to add the tags. This is going to be a not healthy. It is a one pan. It is, that might be all that we tag it with right now. Actually, it's something I would make on a holiday. So I'll put that as there. It's like a holiday breakfast item that I would definitely do. It's not healthy. And it's not, it's not, well, no, it's quick. It's quick. I was about to say it wasn't quick, but it is quick. Cool. Okay. Yeah, and someone's asking what web browser I'm using. I am using Edge. Yep. And that is because Edge has the vertical tabs. Like this. This is awesome. I know you can do this in Arc. A lot of people like Arc, but Edge works really well for me. So that's why I use it. Tony, what's going on, my friend? See you're logged in your sweet new Leaf Bracer Collectibles account. Selling all them Pokemon cards. What's up, what's up, what's up? All right, so we're going to build a formula because I now want to get the total number of recipes that I have in each of my tags. So we're going to go over to a tag. We'll just open our agent tag here. And I'm going to create a formula. And we'll call it recipe count. Just like that. So let's open up our nice little editor here. So the way we get our count is we need to map through our tag relation, and I just realized we do need to make our relation bidirectional. So earlier, if you weren't tuned in, we created a relation between our recipe tags database and our recipes database, but we made it one directional where we can only see the relationship from the recipes database. If we want to be able to make our count here, we're going to have to make that relation bidirectional. So let's edit our tags property here, show on recipe tags, and recipes is actually perfect. I do want to type it out. I don't know if that's like being anal or something, but I'm going to do that. And now we can go over here and we can make our badass little formula. So if we go with tags, recipes, sorry, we can do this little map function here. And why is map? Oh, yeah, because I didn't put any arguments in it. So the map is basically going to let us reach through our recipes relation property and do something to every element in the list. So I have a whole video about Notion formulas, specifically Notion formulas 2.0, and it goes through this in great detail. If you've never played with map before or dealt with arrays or lists. but the TLDR is that when we create a relation property, that property's data type is called a list, or if you want to get into programming parlance, it's an array. An array essentially is just a list of values. Ooh, I can even do this. An array is essentially just a list of values that are in order. And I don't know if I actually made my OBS switch. I did. Okay. I'm practicing here. So I've got the little stream deck here. So essentially, when we are building with an array, did this work? Yes, it did. Okay. When we're building with an array, we need to go through our array and we need to create some sort of function that is going to operate on every element of that array. And in this case, the elements of the array are page objects. Right now we only have one, just the fried rice page object. But if we had many recipes in our Asian category, we would have many elements in this array. So what I want to do is actually, you know what? I think it's even simpler than that. We don't need to map through here because we don't really need to do anything with our page objects. We just need to count them. So instead of map, we can just do recipes.length. But I still will never take, I'll never pass up a chance to explain mapping and arrays and things like that. Okay, so we could just leave it at 1. We could just have it output 1. That would work. But I want to be fancier, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this out of here, and we're going to use a variable. So I'm going to do let, and we're going to call this recipe count. And that's going to be bound to a variable. So if you've never used the let function before, maybe I can zoom in and show this to you a little bit easier. The let function allows us to create a variable, store some sort of value in that variable, and then reference it as the third and final argument of the function. So if we just did recipe count, we could do that. But maybe we want to say, turn that into text and then style it. And we could do maybe code styling to put a nice little border around it. We could maybe do bold, B for bold, bold it. Maybe we do blue, and maybe do blue background. And now we have this nice little 1 as like a chip, which is sort of like a UI term. So we could do that, but I think what we want to do is take it a little bit further and have either 1 recipe or 0 recipes or 2 recipes. Now, the one issue there is that we have a plurality difference. If we have 1 recipe, we don't want the S on the end of recipes. Otherwise, we do. So we can actually change this from let to lets, and lets is just, it's basically like let, but it'll allow us to define multiple variables. So I'm going to make one more variable. It's called plurality. And the value of plurality is going to be the output of an if statement. So we're going to do if, and if we'll do if recipe count is equal to, that's 2 equal signs there, 1, then it'll be nothing. Otherwise, it will be S. Just like that. So then I'm going to go ahead and cut this out of here. I'm going to cut the style call out of here just so you can see what I'm about to do. We can create a group. We're going to basically concatenate multiple strings together. And I'm just entering down so much to add formatting to make this easier to view for people who are maybe new to formulas. We could do recipe count dot format. That's going to turn our numeric value into a string value or a text value. I think the Notion formula editor will just do that for us anyway, but I'm going to go ahead and do it explicitly just so you can see what I'm doing here and also learn a bit about types. I think that's quite helpful to know about. Then we can do space recipe. And then we can do plus, actually let's do plus up here, follow the format. We can do plurality. Boom, 1 recipe. Then, because we put all of this in parentheses like that, we can chain our style call onto the end of that parenthetical group. That's a $10 word right there. And it's going to apply that formatting or that styling to the entire string that we constructed, just like that. So now we have 1 recipe. If we were to add another recipe to the Asian category, so let's say we're making Asian French toast for some reason. Well, now if we go into Asian, we're going to have 2 recipes, and you can see how that plurality is now working because now the recipe count does not equal 1. So instead of outputting this case, which only would happen if this was true, it outputs the S, which is the else case. So now we have 2 recipes. I'm going to bring this down to the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and hide it. Well, let's see here. Would that be useful to show here? I think I'm going to go ahead and hide it here. This is just my personal building style. Where I want to show it is here instead. So I'm going to go to my properties. I'm going to go ahead and show my recipe count. Not edit, show. Now we got that bad boy there. And if we wanted to, we could even apply conditional colors. Let's say if we had more than 10 recipes, we wanted it to be blue. If we had no recipes, we wanted it to be red. We could very easily do that just by tweaking the formula. I don't think it's really necessary in a recipe builder. If it were more like a task manager or something and you wanted to like color code overdue tasks, that could make sense. I think for a recipe book, just 2 recipes, 0 recipes, 1 recipe, that's going to work perfectly well for our purposes. So now let's go ahead and add that to this view as well. And this is the only real downside to building this. I mean, I guess I always have to deal with it, but it's the only real downside to building a lot of these views before I've really hammered out the structure of the entire template. I end up having to click the same buttons and like say, show the same properties on multiple different views over and over and over again. That is one of the annoying things about building Notion templates. Sometimes you just end up clicking the same thing a zillion different times. And I've learned a bunch of tricks for avoiding that, but I still sometimes end up doing it. Okay, so we could have recipes. I'm going to go ahead and create a nice little heading 1 here for recipe tags, just to sort of keep that separate from everything else. And if we wanted to, we could, of course, turn this into a gallery if we wanted to have nice little images for this. Maybe we actually want to do that. So let's experiment. Asian cuisine. Maybe we can get something good there. I think that's pretty good for now. Not going to be too picky at this very moment. We can grab barbecue one. BBQ. This fire looks pretty good. Yep. Let's get some burritos or tacos. Or just some peppers, to be honest. That looks pretty good. That's not the image I clicked, but that could be, I don't know. Maybe Tony knows what that is. And New American. This is like old school American food. That one looks like it works. Yeah, that seems like something I would get at a New American restaurant. It's trying to be all fancy. Okay, so now that we have that, we could easily go over to our layout, change that bad boy to gallery. I think I'm going to go with, let's see here, card preview is going to be page cover. Medium, I think is fine. Center peak, I'm going to change to side peak. I just really like side peak. And we're going to go ahead and show our recipe count one more time. So we could go with that. That's prettier for sure. It might not be as good for quickly going through and doing meal planning, but of course, if we want to, we can just page through like that. So that works pretty well too. I don't know. I'm going to think about it. I'm going to let it percolate up in the noggin for a little bit. And we'll see if it ends up like this or if it goes back to list style. Because the one thing I do like about list style, and I think it's the only database view that does this, is if you go into a page in side peak, the list view actually changes its own width to adapt to the side peak here. And I can even, I think, move, yeah, I can move the window to a degree and it will change itself. So this almost creates a sort of multiple pane style UI like we would have in an email app or an Evernote or something like that. And it just makes it really, really nice to navigate. So I think I'm quickly talking myself out of the gallery here. The gallery is nice, but I mean, look, now I got to scroll like this. And if I'm on my phone, it's not going to work too well. Well, I guess you wouldn't have side peek on your phone, but either way, it's just not quite as nice. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back to list. That's a little bit better. I'm going to keep those header images though. Those are pretty nice. And oh, look, it actually remembered my property visibility from when we had list applied. Great. Awesome. Okay. So next thing we want to do is what? Do we want to create specific mealtime page? And do we want to create a specific recipe tags page? I'm not quite sure yet. Let me look back at my notes here. And I think I actually went away from my notes, so I need to go back to my dev log. I think I had a page note here. Yes, I did. There we go. Okay, meal properties. We're good on meal times. We're good on tags. We now have that that tag database. Ooh, equipment. Okay, that could be another type. Now that we have, and I'm so glad I did this, now that we have created a recipe tags database that is very adaptable to new entries, we can create a type called equipment. And then if you're like, hey, I want to make something that's like one pan or something like that, yeah, you could do that. I'm thinking through, what kind of equipment would you actually search by when you're trying to plan a recipe? Wok would definitely be one of them. Because in many cases, you're going to be using a different type of burner for wok cooking. So that could be something. I think I'm at least going to get that process started by adding a equipment type here. I don't know if I'm going to build out the view for it just yet, but I do want to at least rename done to equipment. And what do you know? Equipment in my head is a green word. I don't know why, but it is. It could also be like a gunmetal gray word, but it does seem kind of green as well. So equipment, tag, style, perfect. Let's also add a favorites property now, because I don't think favorites make sense as a recipe tag page. I think it makes sense as a checkbox property. So we're gonna call this favorite, checkbox, chef name. No, you could do that. You could do that. Favorite, to call that favorite. Star. And now we can just easily check that within a, and we can create a favorited little view here. I also like that chef name idea. So thank you, AI, in this particular instance. Let's make a chef name property. So let's say you love Julia Child and you're going through one of her cookbooks and you're adding recipes. You could very easily add Julia Child here. You could add an Anthony Bourdain recipe. You could add a, oh, Hell's Kitchen. What is that guy's name? Boy, I'm totally brain farting on the Hell's Kitchen guy's name right now. Gordon Ramsay, of course. Yeah, that would be quite nice. And let's see here. Boy, that could very easily become a database itself. But I think for now, I'm going to leave it as a text property. And that would make it very easy to capture with, say, a web clipper, things like that. So Trent just said, this is why you watched Josh series stream setup. Yes, indeed. I saw his video and I was like, oh, that is amazing. The way you have set up the 3/4 view and the sort of quarter view there, it's just so much nicer. I did also build, let's see if I can find it, this more traditional view here, and I can maximize the window. So if we wanted to do something like that, I think I actually just got rid of my face cam for some reason. Let's see here. There we go. I could be down in the corner like this. That does work. I could be in the corner like this. That also works. But the problem I was having specifically with Notion is if I'm in the bottom right corner like this, a lot of times there's important stuff here in the corner, especially if I'm editing the properties of a database. Like right here, I don't think I'm currently covering any of it, but in many cases, I do end up covering important stuff with my face. So watching his video, I was like, wait a minute, I can just do this. And now I don't cover anything. So yeah, shout out to Josh Siri. I don't know how many people here are PHP developers or like Laravel developers or who want to learn how to code. But if you do want to learn how to code and specifically you want to build your own full stack web apps that you can host yourself, Josh Siri's channel is amazing. And I've been watching a ton of his content because I would like to learn Laravel at some point, which means I'm going to have to learn a little bit of PHP as well. But yeah, Trent says you use the tall stack. I'm actually not sure what the tall stack is. Would that be Tailwind, Alpine, Laravel, and Livewire? Let me know if I got that right. I'm just sort of guessing right now. There's so many stacks. I heard about a goat stack the other day. It's like Go, ORM, or I don't know, something like that. But yeah, I'd like to learn that as well. It's kind of funny because we're building Flylighter on like a very JavaScript-y stack. It's like Supabase, and we're using Vercel for our website backend and everything. And I'm now like sort of becoming very enamored with this more indie world of Laravel and PHP and just managing your own servers. So we may eventually move over to that, but for now we're just trying to ship as fast as we can. Anyway, okay, so getting back, I get very easily distracted by chat, which I think maybe is the appeal of streaming for a lot of people. I'm sure people just have this in the background anyway. So I don't know, I have the dead air, the aversion to dead air sort of beaten into me from podcasting days, but in streaming, maybe it doesn't matter so much. So we had created our favorites property. And I think what we can do now is go ahead and actually utilize it in a view. So very, very easily what we can do is just duplicate this bad boy and call it favorites. I'm going to go ahead and set that as a star icon. That's going to be nice and front and center. And then I think favorites is something that might be something that I just want to see right away when I go into my recipe book. So I'm going to put it right there. I'm going to go ahead and add one more filter where favorite is checked. And now let's say, this is truthful. Fried rice is one of our favorites, and we probably make this at least once a week, if not twice a week, because it's easy and my wife makes phenomenal fried rice. So that's going to go into favorites. And here, because this is not a mealtime specific tab, I think we also want to show at least our mealtime property. We could also show tags if we wanted to. I'm not sure if I like that. That's not very aesthetic to me, and I don't really know if I personally need it. So I think I'm going to turn it off, but it is of course something that anybody could turn on if they wanted to. And you know what? Because I really like formulas and because I can't help myself, I'm going to make a formatted cook time or total time property as well. So let's see here. We have total time here. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this. I'm going to call it total time formatted. It might get a better name down the line, but I really want to show this in a nicer way that I can actually put on my views. So let's go ahead and do the same thing we did earlier. See if I can do it a little bit faster this time. Let's total time is going to be our first variable. That's just going to be the summation or the sum of those two values right there. Then we'll have plurality. We're going to have to do some unit changing though. So I'm going to get some test values in so we can work with that in just a second. First we'll do plurality. If total time equals 1, which almost never would, I think, it's going to be that. Otherwise it's going to be S. And then we can output total time plus minutes or minute plus plurality, but on a different line for organizational sake. Then we're going to do style. Let's come down here. I love the code styling. I love the bold on the code styling. And I just really like, let's do green this time. Yeah. It looks good, right? There we go, 15 minutes. So again, we're going to have to tweak this because we might end up with a total time that is above 60. And if it is above 60, I would love for it to be like 1 hour, say 15 minutes, not 75 minutes. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and get the initial result that I wanted, which is this. And it's not quite as big as the tags for lunch and dinner, so this might look better. Yes, that looks better. I do wish it was the same height as these tags, but it's not the worst thing. Okay. Now what we need to do is handle the case that our total time is more than 60. And that might be the last thing I do for this stream. So I may end up streaming more of this a little bit later on, but we are going over an hour. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's set cook time to 100. And let's set our prep time to 53 minutes. Okay, so we've got a couple of potential issues here. We could have a plurality. We need to track plurality for hour, also for minute. I don't think we want to worry too much about seconds. There might be some like really hardcore cooks out there who have like specific second values on prep time. I don't think I'm going to try to build that into this. They're probably using like cooking software. So I think we're just going to have hours. We're going to have minutes, but we do need to track the plurality of hour versus hours and also minute versus minutes. So let's go ahead and build that into our total time formatted formula here. So first and foremost, we need to split hours or a minute count into hours plus minutes. To do that, we are going to use modularity, one of my favorite concepts here. So let's get our total time. We're going to call it total time raw. Good cooking term there. And let's output it just as an example. So 153. What we want to do is turn 153 into 2 hours and 33 minutes. So to do that, we can take total time raw. Actually, we're going to make a variable for this. So it'll call it total. Let's call it hours, actually. Hours is going to be total time raw modulus 60. And let's output hours real quick. I feel like I did that wrong. Oh, no, it's not going to be modulus 60. It's going to be divided by 60. Modulus comes later. 2.55. What we want there is the floor value, which is going to be the nearest integer that is less than this value. So that gets us 2. Perfect. Okay, and then minutes, that is going to be the modulus value. So that will be total time raw modulus 60. So let's output that to make sure we got it right, or see if Tom is bad at math. I don't think I am. Cool, cool. All right, so now we can do our plurality. Again, it's going to be if hours equals 1, nothing, otherwise S. Then we can do minute plurality. Does anyone here watch the Primogen? I watch his stream sometimes, and he's like such a wizard on the keyboard. He's so freaking fast. I'm just like, oh, I'm over here deleting half of my typos. Oh, all my typos, which is half of what I type. We'll do if one more time. Minutes equals 1. Again, double equals, which is our equality comparison. S again. So now we have all the variables set up. I'm going to go ahead and paste that back in. Let's go ahead and get rid of the original plurality. And if you were not here when I did this earlier, basically we are using a parenthetical grouping to take total time, add on minute, and then bring in our plurality variable. And then we're styling it. So instead of these variables, we're going to do, actually, we want to be conditional about this actually, because we don't want to show 0 hours. We don't want to show 0 hours. So let me show it to you with 0 hours, just so we can build this and build upon, make it educational. We would do our, did I make it hours? Yes, I did. Hours plus the term hour plus hour plurality. It'll be 2 hours. And then we could do plus, and I'm going to do a new line here. We'll be able to use this anyway. Comma, space, plus minutes. Is that right? Yeah, I think so. Plus the word minute, plus minute plurality. That is a hard word to say. Boom. Okay, 2 hours, 33 minutes. And if we wanted to, we could put total time on there, but I think I know what it's going to mean. So I don't want to have it be horizontally longer than it needs to be. But here's the issue. This formula works, but if we now take the cook time back down to 10, and we take the prep time down to, say, 15, we get 0 hours, 25 minutes. I would just like for that to be 25 minutes, please and thank you. So we're going to do a little bit more conditionality, and I'll leave it as an exercise to the viewer to make this more efficient if you want to, because we're adding a lot of conditional checks here, and maybe that's just what we have to do. But we're going to create a variable that is this string value right here. So let's go ahead and cut that out. And instead of all of that plural or all that parenthetical grouping being on style. Let's call this, let's get a good variable name for it. Let's just call it time, time.style. So we're going to create ourselves a time variable. The time variable's output or return or stored value is going to be the return value of an if statement. And the if statement is going to be if total time raw is greater than, we actually have, we want ifs. We want ifs because we could also have 1 hour exactly with no minutes, in which case we want to say 1 hour. We could say 60 minutes, but I want to do 1 hour. Be classy about it. So ifs will actually allow us to output multiple different case values here. Instead of just if then or else, we could do if then, else if, else, that kind of thing. So if total time raw is greater than 60 minutes, then we want to output exactly what we had earlier. And I'm going to go ahead and put it all in one line now. Else, if total time raw is exactly equal to 60, then we want to just do the hour variable plus the word hour, and hour plurality wouldn't even matter because it would literally just be 1 hour. Finally, there's going to be a default case. We don't have to do a check for the default case. It's just going to be if this is not the case, and if this is also not the case, then this final argument is going to be our output value. That will be our minutes. Cool. So now we have 25 minutes. Perfect. If we say bump prep time up to 50 minutes, we get 1 hour, just like that. And if we bump that up to 55, we get 1 hour, 5 minutes. Perfect. All right. So I think that is where I'm going to end this little build stream for the night. If there are any questions or things you want to pop in the chat before I head out, I'll stay for a few more minutes just in case. But if not, thanks for hanging out with me. We got, I think, a good amount of the way done. I'm probably going to go work on this a bit more tonight while I'm chilling out. And this recipe template, once it is done, is eventually going to make its way into Ultimate Brain 3.0, which is going to be launching very early, either very early November or late in October. I'm not entirely sure about our launch date yet. We're planning around some Notion things. But I'm also going to turn this into a template all its own. It is a standalone set of databases, same as the Ultimate Books template that I showed a little bit earlier in this stream. So I have plans on turning those into standalone templates. And I want to try something interesting that I haven't tried before. I want to try something I'm going to call build or buy. So as you probably know, I do sell Notion templates. And I think that there's a lot of value in these smaller templates that could be lower priced. But I also think that people should be able to build them themselves. So we're going to create full-blown tutorials on how to build them. And then it'll be like, hey, if you don't want to build it yourself, then you can buy it for a low price. I think we're going to try that out for the recipes template and also for the book tracker template as well. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. If anything, hopefully I was just a welcome little distraction on your computer speakers while you were playing Overwatch or something. And if you were actually watching, maybe you learned a thing or two about Notion formulas and databases and building things, all that good stuff. If you want to learn more, we got plenty of YouTube videos on this channel, of course. And then over on thomasjfrank.com/fundamentals, you'll find our full playlist of Notion fundamentals content. We have articles, we have videos, we've got a email newsletter you can join that has lots of additional goodies and cheat sheets and things like that. So check those out. You can also find our Notion templates over at thomasjfrank.com/templates. And yeah, don't see much in the chat. So as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you a little bit later.